Thank you very much, Rob, for laying the groundwork for us and explaining the importance of FDI and especially FDI in Poland. I should add, you have in your folder some articles, including one, if I might cite my own piece that I wrote in Forbes.com on why Poland matters, which I think is an important issue to note at the outset. Why does Poland matter? Why are we talking about Poland here at the National Press Club? And the answer is, first, Poland is a large country. It's the fifth largest country in Europe. But also, many of us harbored strong hopes that Poland, especially with its accession to the EU, would provide a kind of free market boost, or maybe even influence countries, the more traditional countries of Europe that were slipping into a situation where growth had slowed tremendously, and that perhaps Poland and some of the other Eastern European countries would emulate, would become sort of the Western Hemisphere's tigers, emulating countries like South Korea, Singapore, and so forth. And I think there's been a certain amount of disappointment there, and maybe it has to do with what Rob has talked about, and especially about political risk. And so I want to turn next to Hilary Kramer and have her discuss political risk in Poland and whether there is, whether that is playing a role in the disappointment that some of us see as far as Poland's growth is concerned.
Thank you, Jim. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today. This panel is, I think, very special because we each approach Eastern Europe, Poland in particular, from a different angle. For me, I come from Wall Street. I'm a portfolio manager. I'm an investor. I'm an equity analyst, as well as a private equity investor in early stage development. And my background in telecom globally has spanned Telefónica de España and their investments in Brazil with Vivo Participaus, some of the early investments of Global Crossing, as well as Nextlink, Exo Communications. These are companies that I've followed. Now, of particular interest, Rob made an excellent point, which is the key here is the opportunity in Poland. Penetration right now on broadband is only 13% versus 24%, which is still extraordinarily low in comparison to the rest of developed and close to developing economies. Now, for me in particular, why am I here? Well, first of all, Poland is very special to me in particular. We all know it is the center and historically for centuries the intellectual, the academic, the scientific, the technological, and the philosophical leader for Europe. And somehow, because of events with World War I and World War II, so much of that has been forgotten. But anyone who's a student of history, as I am, knows that even going back to 1347, it was your King Casimir III who prevented the Black Plague from coming into Poland because you had the medical and technological advancements and understanding to prevent that, and the intellectual and the open-mindedness to welcome and protect those that were not Polish within the borders of Poland. So Poland, and as a historian, for me, it's a very important and special country that it's at the brink of opportunity right now. Now, why am I sitting right here right now? It's because I wrote an interesting article on my observations in the telecom industry. In particular, and I would hope the article is in there, in your packets, in Forbes on November 22nd, I believe it was, an article on the situation I will call PT or Poland Telecom, and a particular case that's going on. Now, why am I watching that? Because I invest in Alcatel, French Telecom, many of the European telecom companies. In particular, what is important is that the EU is at a very tenuous point in time because there are restrictions, rules, and yet protections and cooperations that often lead to discrepancies and conflicts that could really drive and hurt countries in particular. Now, in the case of Poland, what I wrote about and what I noted was that France Telecom, which is a 49.7% owner in Polish Telecom, has the onus on them. A Vienna arbitration board decided and ruled after a 9-year protracted case that Polish Telecom owes $502 million to GN, which is a headset maker in Denmark, that their division was DPTG. That was the division of GN Store Nord, the official name, that made this investment in the early 1990s, the north-south build-out of Poland's telecom infrastructure. And there was a revenue-sharing agreement. I think 14%, is it 4? Yeah, but 14.8% of revenues would then have to go back to this Danish company. And in the first 5 years, that indeed did take place. Subsequent to that, the payments were suspended and did not occur. Now, as someone who is an analyst and an investor in telecom, but also in Europe and watching the developments in Europe, it was important for me to see that that there's cooperation until it's not in the interest of an organization. And I'm not trying to point out one particular case. I'm using specific situations to be exemplary of what is happening. I mean, I can also talk to a very interesting case that just emerged that's against Poland. It's very interesting. The Netherlands has been, the European Justice Commissioner, Viviane Reding, she's warned the Netherlands because the Netherlands wants to send Polish citizens that are in the Netherlands that have lost their jobs, that aren't being that have applied for Social Security and social benefits in the Netherlands. She wants to ship them back to Poland. But that's against the EU rules and regulations. And so in Europe, the importance of cooperation is more important than it's ever been before because the economy is still struggling. And the whole investment community globally is watching these kind of fiascos as they take place.